Hey everybody, welcome to Chat with Sandy and Karen. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. Jasara Hines, and she is here to just chat about her favorite tech tools. And also, we're going to touch a little bit about our experience with math. And this is Women's International Women's Month. We have declared it thus. And so anyway, we have lots of cool guests this month, and so welcome, Jasara. And we were just chatting a little bit about your experience in school.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, and I sorry. Hello, Sandy. Hi. Hello, how are you doing?
Hi, Karen. Hi, Jasara.
Hi, Sandy.
Okay, so you were telling us about your math, the cohorts that you had in your math program.
Right. Well, yeah, my technology program. So when I applied, I kind of knew that it was going to have some sort of coding / computer science integration into the curriculum. I didn't expect that I would actually have to code in the very first semester of the program. And the way that this program was advertised, and I did know, so I knew my background. I kind of thought that we would ease into that because we were all coming from different disciplines, because it was an interdisciplinary approach. And so, we had people from psychology, from film. I was English, and I thought we would work our way up to that. So in the very first semester, very first class too, I will never forget this. We get there and he was like, all right, let's go. Because we're in a computer lab, and he goes, pull up this ID. And I'm like, I don't know what he's talking. Like, I literally was looking around. I don't know what he's talking about. And so he was like, wait, you guys know what I'm talking about? And some people were like, yes. And then others were like, no. And so he realized that we also were not prepared for the content. But the lucky thing, and I kind of talked about this with the panel that Sandy and I were on. I was one of the very few women in the class. So, there were issues with that. But the good thing is that we could rely on each other. So it was me and 3 other women, only women in the program. And we would meet on Sunday afternoons because we were mothers. We were working, this was just school, right? So Sundays, Saturdays were our only time. We would go and meet in the student union as if we were undergrads, and we would sit there with our laptops, and we would look things up, and we would be like, okay, I found how to write this line of code. And we would just help each other. And I would have not gotten through that first class without those women, because it would have honestly been overwhelming to try and find all of the information that I would have needed because of the number of different computing things we had to do. So like I was saying, we had to be able to do databases. There are some people in computer science that's not their forte. And,
Sure.
so we had to do databases, a lot of website design and hypertext design, and, just so many different elements we had to be able to do. So to have that support system, and of course we had that common bonds that we were women and we were mothers, and we were also older than the other students, because I was in my 30s, some of them were in their 40s, 50s. So without them, definitely I wouldn't be here. Absolutely.
That is fabulous that you found that support when you needed it.
Yes.
That's great. Excellent. So let's fast forward a little bit. and you've graduated and you have your computer science or tech and technology degree. What are you up to now?
So actually, I'm not really using that degree. So even before I started this, I was a teacher, and I taught basically every English class imaginable because my bachelor's and my master's was in English. When I got this degree, I'm sorry, do I need to worry about that pop-up?
No, don't worry
Okay.
about that. That's
Okay.
technical issues.
Okay. So when I got my degree, I was actually able to teach computer science. And this is all in Florida. So when I used to live in Florida. So I taught computer science for about 3 years. And I think I expressed how much I really loved teaching computer science, and loved seeing students, light up when they coded something and it did something.
Yeah.
That was some of the best experiences. And, I had great fun with those students as well. We did a lot of competitions. So I took them to coding competitions. We got to go to one at NASA, over at the Kennedy Space Center. We had some great times, my computer science kids and I. And even it was really nice because even they were kind of a cohort too, because they started in the lower level computer science class, some of them coming in with no background, just like I did. And at the end of it, being able to get college credit in computer science because it was an advanced placement class, and then going up to the harder of the two computer science courses and excelling there as well. And I actually have one student who she went on to a school and got an internship at Amazon because of her background, and she won an award for computer science, the NCWIT Women in Computer Science and Technology Award. She won that as a high schooler. So I had some real fun times teaching computer science. But now, because I am in a different state, in a more, I don't want to say restricted state, but I'm not able to teach computer science in this state of Illinois. So I do teach English, which is, a great subject, has its strengths. But I also, at my school, I am also the Avid Coordinator. So Avid is an amazing program that I am very blessed to be a part of at my school. Avid stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. So it's a program where we provide students who are the untraditional college students. So, they don't have the background, like their parents did not go, so they might be first generation. They're like the middle of the ground. So they're not, advanced students. They're, they're the everyday student who just needs some extra help to get into college and then persist and graduate from college. Right. So I love being a part of that program. I love and that's actually one of the things I was going to talk about today, because they have an open access website that anybody can go to and get strategies, activities, lesson plans to help boost reading, inquiry, writing, organization, reflection, all those different types of things with students. So I'm really happy to be a part of that program. And then I, as a Google trainer, I've also been helping with, giving PD and helping our teachers get used to this life that we're in now. Because we actually next week will be 1 year where we have not been in the building. So we have been completely remote for 1 year next week.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what has that impacted your teaching and learning being remote?
Absolutely, 100%. You know, before, so in Florida, my district was one-to-one. So I was very fortunate to be exposed to Google, because we had Google, to be exposed to Canvas because we went to Canvas learning management system, and to be able to use some tools inside of the classroom, like, Google Slides, we use that a lot, Google Docs. But then when I came here, that we were not one-to-one, and then this happened. And in this happening, with this population of students as well, some of that stuff didn't matter. Like, they don't care. They didn't care about Google Docs. They weren't excited about that. So I had to find other ways to engage students and how to use the tools we had to engage students. So, like, I often say this, that I wish I knew about some of these ed tech tools before the pandemic, so that I could have been using them with my students to really help get them more interested in English and get them more engaged in and out of the classroom. So in a way, this happening, and I think, everyone, we do try to see the positive of these sorts of situations. And I think one positive is that, as a whole, I think educators around the globe have now been exposed to so many different perspectives and tools and ways of doing things, that once we are back with our students and when we are in the classroom with them, that we can navigate and integrate those things for more meaningful instruction. So I, for one, I cannot wait until we go back in person in some capacity, whatever that may be, so that I can see the fruits of bringing these tools into the classroom, the physical classroom, on a more, in a more consistent basis, to see the effects, to see if that engagement level ramps up, because that's a huge concern at our school, is engagement, keeping our kids engaged.
Yeah. So they'll be so much more comfortable with it now.
Correct.
It won't be something new or something, I won't like it. It'll be very, but not, I think just comfortable is a good word. The students will be ready for using those tools for learning all the time.
Yes, absolutely.
So what is your favorite tool, Jasara?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there are so many, right? I mean, honestly, if I had to say favorite, I would probably think about the ones that I use daily. And daily use would be Peer Deck for sure. And I was very fortunate to be able to present on Peer Deck at not their winter, but their fall edition. Peer Deck I use every day. My students really have responded well to Peer Deck. I had, and I'll give you like a story. I had one class, about 20 students, and we were doing, a lesson on poetry. And the first poem we read, we did it on a PDF, and we do use Kami. And I thought, okay, they can annotate, they can do things with the Kami while we're reading. Very, very little engagement. It was crickets. I was doing most of the talking. It did not go the way I, thought it would go, right? So that was the first poem. I thought and thought and thought, and I was like, all right, I have to do something different because this is not working. So I decided I would take the poem and I would chunk it up and put it into a Peer Deck. And so, I would have like a specific prompt for each stanza or something, and we would mark it up there, and they could, do different things, different reactions. The majority of the students participated. And because it's Peer Deck, it's live, so I can see their participation. I was able to give them, praise and because they and as well, I had never thought that these students could say such poignant things either, because they usually don't, because they usually are silent. And so with the Peer Deck, when they were, putting in their responses, I was legitimately blown away because I did not know that they could think this way. So that just made it 100% all right. Peer Deck from now on. Like, we're not going to do any more PDF readings. We'll put it into so that's one of my favorites for sure.
Great.
And then because I'm English and because of the population I work with, I love Mote, which is a Chrome extension. And Mote allows you to leave audio, verbal, notes, comments, feedback. You could do translations. So like if you teach a foreign language, you can either speak it in the language and it will translate it into English for your students, or vice versa. And the reason I love Mote is because I know for a fact my students will not read my feedback. I could give them the most detailed description of what they need to fix in an assignment to resubmit. And they will probably read the first sentence and ignore the rest, fix one thing and send it back. And then I have to we just keep cycling this again and again. And I'm like, okay, I need to do something different. And I think it was Twitter is where I first was exposed to Mote. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try it. And I tried it and I left, I would leave feedback comments for my students and I get a report and I would be like, oh, they listened. They heard it. Like, it would say you left 10 notes, and they would say 10 out of 10 listened to. And I was like, yes, this is amazing. And so Mote has been a lifesaver because, as well as, I don't have to sit there for 10 minutes typing up something that my kids aren't going to read anyways. So Mote is probably my second go-to. And then honestly, Avid Open Access. So I know I kind of mentioned, before that it is a program and schools pay to be a part of this program. However, Avid as a company has realized that their content can be used for doing good for more than just the companies who pay, or the schools, who pay. So they have a website specifically for everyone to just go on there and access. And on the website, there are some awesome resources. So if you're interested in SEL for students and you want an activity that you want to use, they've got those. They've even got some computer science stuff on there too, because now Avid is has an initiative to start integrating computational thinking as a strategy in the Avid elective classroom, but of course all classrooms. So there's so many resources and full lessons on Avid Open Access.
Awesome. I've been dropping the links in the chat so that we'll have a record of it. That's
nice.
Great.
Awesome.
It looks fabulous.
Yes.
And I love. Go ahead, Sandy.
No, I was just going to. Okay, Jasara. So, like you mentioned earlier, we know each other from a little talk we did previously, and you've got such an interesting background. So, I don't know. Why don't you share with Karen and the listeners,
sure.
where you're from and where you are, because it's inspiring.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So I was born and I went to school, so elementary and secondary school in Trinidad. which is in the Caribbean. And like I was telling Sandy, we use the British system of education. So I took O levels.
Days.
And I mean, obviously it was also a different time, right? I'm going to school in the 80s and early 90s, but just a different culture. Like, you know, they were allowed to beat us. Like, I mean, you know, as students, you know, they were allowed to hit us in school. And
not in the UK.
Yeah. I had great experiences. I'm not going to lie. School was in, you know, elementary school. We go, like, for me, because my birthday is November, I was able to start school at 4. So I'm in elementary school at 4 years old. So, you know, I'm reading, I'm writing, I'm, you know, so, and that's amazing, right? That's great.
Yeah.
But then the flip side is it's very stressful, because when you get to be 11, you have to take this huge test, and that determines what high school you go to. And so you know, you get, as a student, you're 11 years old, and your entire high school career rides on a test, one test. I was fortunate enough to pass for my first choice, which was St. Joseph's Convent. And at Sandy knows, elementary school, all girls, high school, all girls. And that experience had its positives, but also its negatives. So one good thing was, I think I was able to learn a lot about women and and all the nuances of femininity, and you know, the good and the bad of you know, what our gender entails. But I also saw a lot of great role models, because my father was the only male teacher in my high school. All of my other teachers were female. My physics teacher was female. My biology teacher, my chemistry teacher, my math teacher, all female. My father was the art teacher. So I know, right? Ironic. And he was the only man as well at the time. So I, you know, I had some great role models. My business teacher was female. So I had great times, but then, you know, the flip side is there were things that I missed out on. Like I did not know how to work in groups with men or the opposite gender. I did not know how they communicate, how, you know, and the bad thing is, and I should have mentioned this, I didn't have any brothers either. So really, my father was the only male in my household, only male in my school. I only had sisters, 4. I had 4 sisters and my mother, and that's it. So I really, like, growing up, the male interaction was lacking. So when I got to college, so I came to Florida. I moved to Florida when I was going to start college, and there were so many things that I had to navigate in that first semester in America as an immigrant, as someone working or having to work with boys in group projects. And I think I said this in the thing with Sadie. There was one time that I literally broke down in the hallway because I did not want to work in a group. Like because I wasn't used to that. And I felt like an outsider because I was speaking differently, writing differently. Like I almost failed freshman composition because I would write with the British spelling, and my professor was like, "You cannot do this. What are you doing?" And I'm like, "This is how you spell this word." I was like, it did not resonate with me that America was different. So there was a lot that I had to overcome in that first semester. Like I look at it, or I think back on it now, and I was like, oh my gosh, if only I knew more. If only I knew more then, I wouldn't have had such a hard time.
Oh, goodness. It might have been better that you didn't know what you were headed for. Maybe you
Right,
wouldn't
because
have
then maybe
gone.
I would not have come.
Yeah, that would have been terrifying. Yeah.
I know.
Well, I have
Well,
to ask a question. Why America and not the UK?
Right. Well, right. So I don't know if Sandy knows this, but a lot of us Trinidadians, we choose the UK for college. So like right now, I have a niece who is she's not literally there because she's back in Trinidad because they closed the borders. Who does school there? I had an aunt and two uncles who lived in Florida. And my grandmother spent half of the year in Florida and half of the year in Trinidad. So when I had done my O levels and, it was like, so I'm 50, because technically I would have been 15 when I was done with that part of high school. So when I was done with that part, my grandmother was spending more and more time in Florida and less time in Trinidad. And, my grandma was like, do you want to come and go to school here? Like, I will stay and, so you'll have me and I'll support you and make sure you're good, on everything. But whereas in England, I would have only had because I have one sister who lives in England and I would not have really been close to her because, in terms of not just distance, but in age, that sister is considerably older than I. So by the time I was born, she was already out of the house. So I did not have a very strong connection with her. So going there, I still would have kind of been alone. So I chose America because I had some family to rely on and have, emotional support and connection and whatever.
Oh, that's nice.
Lovely. That's the decision where I moved out of the house at 18 after high school to go to junior college was family related too, because I had a sister here, and she said, "Yeah, come live in the town. You could stay in the dorm at the college, but I'll be here for you. You could come have meals on the weekends."
Yeah, that's nice.
So that family support is so important.
Absolutely.
And not necessarily academically, but just to know that you have someone close by.
Correct.
It's beautiful.
So where's the weather? Where is the better weather, in Trinidad or Florida or Chicago?
The better weather? Oh, I don't know. So, oh gosh, I think Trinidad, because we are literally right above the equator. I mean, it's always warm. One thing and it's funny because as a child growing up, you don't really notice it because you're used to it, right? But going back to visit, holidays and whatnot, I feel it. I feel the heat. Florida, I think a lot of people in America, especially north of the US, they love Florida because it is warm most of the year. I really think that Chicago, for me, I can do Chicago most of the time, but around March, so around now, I start to get sick of the cold. Yeah. So I feel like I want to say it's to me at least, because I'm still not acclimated because I've only been here for 3 years now. For me at least, it's cold from like October through April. And I start to get tired of it right about now. But hopefully the more I'm here, the less that will affect me. But to be honest, I don't like being hot. Which is, again, ironic because I came from the equator and I don't like being hot. But I don't like sweat. I don't like feeling sweaty. And I always say that I would rather be cold, because you can be warm in the cold, but you can't be cool in the heat. So for me, I think I would prefer to live here, but most people would probably choose Florida and the weather in Florida.
So did Karen, was it 2 weeks ago you had that really cold snap? It was about 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Were you as
I think
as Karen's?
Yes, we would have been just as cold or colder. We had a lot of snow, a lot. I feel like this winter was mild in comparison to some of the winters that I've experienced. The first year I was here, we had the polar vortex where it was below 50. So that was my first winter here. And I feel like the last 2 years has been mild. And I'm calling like 30s, like, you know, being in the 30s and 20s, that's mild. So that's what we've kind of experienced the last 2 years.
Yeah. We just have less of that. And usually our very cold times are end of January, beginning of February. That's when we get that's when this last one was. It was January, February. It was very cold. For us, it was historic. It was like 1 degree Fahrenheit.
Oh, gosh.
We've never experienced that. But also all across the South, was just listening to someone in Georgia, their city water tower froze. So they have in the South, they have water towers up in the air and big tanks of water. The whole thing froze. So I imagine it's going to take forever for it to thaw out, you know, so they can have water again.
Wow.
You know, that was the biggest thing, is that we just aren't prepared for that.
For sure. But I love how Sandy in Sweden is talking about weather, and she's not mentioning what it's like in Sweden right now.
What's it like today in Sweden?
I'm not complaining. When you said you'll get used to the weather, and I was saying, no, you don't. I've been here 10 years and it's cold.
Right.
It is cold. I mean, one of the great things is the days are getting longer.
Okay.
Oh,
that's nice.
So it will be freezing outside, below 0. But the sun is out, we'll go out. It's nice. So we're just appreciating that the days are getting longer. It's sunny, but like you, I can't wait till it's so nice and warm. And I don't like to be sweaty, but I want hot weather.
Yeah. When will it be warm there? And what is warm in Sweden?
So according to one of our previous guests, Lewis, he reckons it's only 1 day a year, but it'll be about July. I mean, so anything, I think past Easter, May, June, July, and especially when we start going back to work in August, September. Now, when you want that warm weather, that's when it's going to be nice and warm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I think I just need to see the sun. I don't think I could live in the Pacific Northwest where there's no sun. I mean, just break up the clouds a little bit. Let me see the sun. It doesn't matter what temperature it is. I think there's something that it just makes me happy.
Yeah. The sun definitely is a mood changer, because that's the other thing about being here in Illinois, particularly where I am. We are overcast the majority of fall, winter, sometimes even into spring. So the sun, when it is out, I laugh about this because I did not realize how gray it was, and then how amazing the sun coming out could be. But when the sun is out, my community, my neighbors will be sitting on their driveway or laying on their driveway and taking in the sun. And at first I laughed about it because I had never seen that. But then now that I've been here a little bit, I realize why they're doing that. Because when it's here, it's like, oh my, it's like, it's like that moment,
I'm glad you say that. We thought it's just Swedes who do that, but it's globally.
It's here too.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for joining us today. I think this
Absolutely.
is a good stopping point. Sandy, you want to take it away?
Yeah, so thank you, Jasara, talking to Karen and myself about your research, your excitement with all these edtech tools, and your growing up, and you showed us that you inspire so many girls, which is what we want to see. People like you, women like you, not because we're trying to prove feminism. What we're trying to say is, come on, girls, you can do it.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's so nice, and nice to know there's so many, great motivators like you out there. So to our listeners, hopefully they'll listen to this and they can say, yes, right, you can do this, and we'll get them to be future doctors in education or in whatever field they want to be. So we thank you. We thank the listeners. We thank Karen. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at ChatWSK1, and you can find and subscribe to us on Spotify, Google, Apple, in What's Happening in Education, and both sides of the pod with Karen and myself.
All right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Thank you, Jasara.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.